Hello, disruptors of education. Alli and I are back. At the time of this recording, Alli is still 7 hours. Is it 7 hours? 10 hours?
7 hour, 7 hours from you.
7 hours, yes, in Italy. How you doing? What's going on?
Italy is wild in a good way. My
Hmm.
best friend lives here, and I just did. So for those who love Italy and you want like you want to put on the map like where I've been so far, Bologna, Parma, um, Le, Lerici. I never say that one right, Italian wise, but it's spelled
You could say anything to me.
Lerrici.
It would be anything. I'd be like, oh,
Um, Hiked the Cinque Terre and then went to Pisa. This is my third time in Italy, and I finally went to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa and took like ridiculous photos and just had like a whole play fest. And then I went to Florence, and then if you just want to get to know like my personality a little bit more, is like I have been dreaming about this sparkling water. It's a fountain in Florence,
hmm.
and it literally is like a free water fountain that bubbles out carbonated water, and it's so good. And so I literally went to Florence to do that. That's what I did. I've been dreaming about it for 8 years.
Just take like a big jug. Like I feel like you just fill that thing up.
I filled a whole water bottle, and then I had some. We got some these like famous sandwiches,
Hmm.
and then I went back and filled it up again.
So that's awesome. That's great. I think obviously there's going to be this Leaning Tower of Pisa thing where you had to hold it up. Everybody does that shot, right?
I did the pushing it down because of the disruptors, Peter. Like
Yes.
I was like, oh, everyone's like, oh, holding the Leaning Tower piece, and I was like, we are kicking down silos. We are kicking down this Leaning Tower. Let's go.
That's going to be on the cover of this podcast. Like, that's awesome.
I will send it to you.
So no, it's great. I got back from New York. Big shout out to the National Business Education Association. Basically, that we were in a planning meeting, and there's some great things coming up on that. I got to meet some great people in secondary and post-secondary education, some leaders, thought leaders. There's a lot of organizations out there, but this organization really is now. I mean, they brought educators in, including myself, to talk about, wait, what are we missing? So the user experience was unbelievably awesome. It was a full day in White Plains. The best I could do around Italy is we did go to a very good Italian restaurant though, and
Hey.
yeah, so and they had a baby grand piano playing there, so some guy playing, and it was really good. It was really good stuff. So I'm excited. So I just got back from that a couple of days ago, actually yesterday. So things are moving. But yeah, we just talked to Joe, Natalie, and Maureen, who are moving in their own rights in different areas of the United States. Where do we go? Where do we go from here? We can unpack this, but what do you think?
Hey, Peter. So we've been doing this series for a while now, and it's been like this beautiful kind of like, I don't know, I feel like we started in this like caterpillar cocoon, and now we're like growing wings into this series in terms of like, we don't even know where it's going now. Like it's kind of forming its own metamorphosis,
Hmm.
especially with the most recent episode with Marine and just, this whole series is going beyond the score. And it was so interesting because she didn't mention tests or scores like a single time in the episode. And it just kind of like really, I think, launched kind of like, a new series, a new lens that we need to kind of look at in terms of educational journeys. But this episode, okay, is very special because we are going to get our thoughts on, you know, what does it mean to connect academia to reality? You're still in education. I was in education for 10 years, might go back to be determined, but it's like, where do we kind of see all of these stories coalescing, and especially with our educator friends who are doing the work? So, Peter, to open up this episode, this is not the question that I want to ask you, but I do have a question that I want to
I'm
ask
sitting
you, and
here
it will
waiting
come
for
out.
this one.
I just got to build you up for it. But okay, so like I think the iconic question, and let's just get to the meat of it, is it's like if you could envision, like a better school model, seeing what you see now and hearing everybody on the series, particularly the educators, what are some thoughts that come to mind in terms of what, how can we build a better educational experience? What are we missing? Sky's the limit.
Yeah, to keep it as simple as possible, I think we're missing the student at the center. The student building around them. There is autonomy in learning that we've taken away. The conformity, the competition, all these things that are really kind of stifling people in who they really are. I think each person comes with a very different lens. They also come with dreams, aspirations. And we really, this is Sir Ken Robinson coming out of me, but we really do crush those. We crush those. And then, somewhere in between K through 12, and when we get them in post-secondary, or secondary, and even post-secondary, we have to reteach them again. It's like, please go back to your first grade self or second grade self. Run around the classroom. Tell me how you're going to help people differently. And it's almost like we strip down all the learning and then we have to rebuild it. I would like to just stop stripping down the learning. We can attach all the pieces of whatever standardized education can be, and it has been done in certain areas of the world. But I think, to me, that's what school should look like is, all right, we're going to find out a way that we can put all the resources, technology, human resources, whatever that looks like, around each person. Across, and I'll just talk about the States because that's where I live. It's where you live. Around each person, and we do it. Like, we stop talking about equity. We stop talking about things. And I'm wearing black today for those on the, because I'm just like, I feel like, Johnny Cash right now. I'm just wearing black for the people who, are really like struggling. And, yeah, I wish I could wear white and be all like, shiny or rainbow or whatnot. But I think we just, and we did it, a couple episodes, even after the student voice one, we started asking, like, really, people, we need to get dirty here. We need to get in the mud. And to me, that's what it looks like. It's got to be student-centered. It's got to be where we build. And like I said, if we need to add math, science, English, whatever these state standards are, we can do that. But we can do it with the individual at the center. That's a big question. I don't know how to build that. I know how to build something like that in high school. I've seen it. We've seen it. I think Maureen's doing something very incredible there. I think, Natalie's talking about it. Joe's even trying to do some smaller things in school. We were trying to do things and still continue to. But, how do you, I think we need to put more emphasis on not just, there is no one answer when it's centered, right, around the student. So center the student, and then let's build outward on each person as much as we can. We need to stop saying, oh, but that's too big of a job. I think we just need to go. We need to Iowa big this thing. We need to, education evolution this thing. We need to, just enhance these places where people are succeeding, and people in general. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, or what you're about. So that's my short answer.
I love it. The irony, I'm wearing like white and black like this. We didn't plan this. It's like the contrast of like what you were just talking about, like with the visual imagery of colors and in that. I mean, it almost look like I'm wearing like some prison outfit or something, but right, like.
This is out. There's a full moon at the time of this too. Here, anyway. I don't know what you're seeing in Italy, but
Yeah, school's like. I feel like what you kind of were talking about is like they feel almost like this prisoning type system that we can't like get ourselves out of. We're serving our term, and I don't know that that's good for anybody. And like, right, like educators, those the kids we've interviewed, the students we've interviewed, people working around it. Yeah, there's some layers there, especially with the color.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I'm gonna ask my question that I've been thinking about. So just because I don't feel like you get asked, we have all these guests and everything, but so my question is, you started this podcast, Peter, in 2016,
Mhm.
okay? And if you could go back and tell your 2016 self what you know now, having podcasted and talked to so many people over the years, what would you tell yourself? What would
Mm.
you tell yourself?
It's top of mind. I do think about it. I try not to go back. I've shed a lot of anger that I've had back then. I'll be honest. I've had a lot of anger in certain districts, certain situations, and not necessarily always warranted. It's just more my passion. I do know my personality. I did take my personality quiz with my students. So I one of my challenges I have is I get super passionate, and then I get very very I don't know, upset or very pushy, and then I put a lot of pressure on myself. So I think number one, going back and just understanding that, going into, God Lord, this is almost 8 years into this, trying to figure out ways to be more patient. It's super hard for me though, because I know, like, you look back and you see what you could have done for an entire generation of students, and that's hard. That's hard to swallow. Man, this would have worked if this student knew about this, or if this educator knew about this. So I wear a lot of that on my sleeves, and I think I would try to tell myself, it is what it is, and move forward with it. The other thing is I would have started looking for opportunities quicker. Knowing what I know now, I have an amazing amount of educators. Obviously, we're co-hosting now, and it's the lens that you share is outstanding. Never in my dreams did I think it would do something like this. I was really angry when I started this podcast. I was just pissed. I was just, no, like, somebody needs to hear this. And now I have an amazing network of educators, and it continues to grow. And I think earlier then I would have tried to figure out ways to continue, like, to really build. Is that going to keep me in the system or not? I don't know. The grass is green on both sides of the fence, but also the grass needs watering on both sides of the fence. So it's one of those catch-22s, and I've always been on the fence of where I want to go and what I want to do. But I think I would have sought out some more opportunities earlier, outside of education. I'm doing some writing now for some different blogs and different things like that. We're doing this, working with ed tech companies. It's like you have a winning lottery number now, and if you could go back and play that number, yeah, that's what I would do. That's a tough question though. So yeah.
It's relevant because, and thank you for sharing that,
Mm-hmm.
because it shows the journey of what I think many in education feel. And like, one of the things and one of the reasons why I stepped away from the classroom this year is because I didn't ever want to be, it's interesting how we like channel our sentiments, with the
Mm-hmm.
system. And I never wanted to be so angry that I was like fighting from the inside out. And so it's like me being on the outside allows like this gift of space away from, like, it's October right now. Like, the recording of this
Yeah.
podcast is October, which is the most challenging month for educators. And November isn't that much better until
Right.
you hit Thanksgiving break. And so, you answering this question now versus if we were talking about in the summer, or if I'm literally asking you this question, probably like the hardest, most challenging time of the year.
Yeah.
And to still feel like, you would go back and, you would seek out opportunities and still want to help the system that you are in
Hmm.
says a lot about like your own journey. I think of like going beyond the teacher that you were, back
Hmm.
then. Were you really looking at scores and tests and the educational process when you started this podcast, or has that evolved?
Yeah, I think that has evolved. I was looking at a slightly different way. I was trying to speak to parents and students in their language, which is scores. And I used it as the carrot, not intentionally, but I also used it as a carrot to say, look, let's just, this is so important to me. So I know, thinking this way and getting into this mindset. And, but for you, I know that 95% is important for you. So if you look at it with this mindset, I'll give you that. Right. I've since just said, I don't care what you do, I'll give you the A. And they look at you and they're like, huh? And so, yeah, I feel like I've evolved through that. And kind of like on the other side of things, I got numb to the stupidity in the system. You have to. And that's hard. You see things every day where there's control and there's just terrible relationship things that happen. Not all the time, but when they do, it's devastating. And I'll tell you a quick story about one time in education, and this is not at my current school, but there, that we have a night school. So the night school are always the students that come in, maybe eighth period on. They're usually hanging around school, like after school, to come in at the end of the day, and then they stay until 5 or something, take some credit recovery, whatever it is. They're in there to check the box, and they don't want to be there. And there was a young man who was standing outside, and it was chilly, and we would let him in, and he would sit on the stairs until like the bell rang or whatever. But I guess one time he went and charged his phone and was like hanging out in the bathroom or something, not really disturbing anybody. But one of the deans came up to us like, "Don't let that kid in," just really like he's been roaming the halls and da da da. And I remember walking out and I put my hand on the kid's shoulder. I'm like, "I'm sorry, man. Like we can't let you in. I guess roaming the halls or something." And the kid almost snapped, and rightfully so. I could understand because no one heard what he was doing. He's literally charging his phone in the bathrooms. And yeah, maybe he was roaming a little bit, but why not have a conversation? Human center this thing. All right, just can I see this from your lens? The worst thing, Allie, is the next day that kid never showed up again. So because we tried to control somebody who was already on the fringe of quitting high school, he never came back. And why would he? He's like, F this. I'm not like, why? That's probably part of the reason. So to me, that's devastating. Like, I'm like, here's a kid who probably, I mean, just in our brief conversations that we had a few weeks before all this happened, I mean, you could tell this kid had life experience. He had something to give, and I think that goes back to that first answer. Is that to me is I think where we all need to just stop the control thing and start the human thing. Stop teaching subjects, start teaching students. So, and I have a shirt with that on it too, by the way. So
I
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you're still fighting within the system, learning from that whole experience and experiences. I really did like, I mean, like all of our guests have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
And whether they are operating, like Joe within the system that, he's in the public school system, or Natalie working in Canada and working on interesting like work there across territories. And I don't fully understand the Canadian system, but it sounds like they're doing some interesting stuff up there in the north. And then to your point, Maureen really hit hit the nail on the head with, you have to first have relationships. And I also really love the idea. And me and you were talking about this on a post just earlier today about um, the power of a small community, or being, to what you're talking about here. It was like, in order to have relationships, we can't have like these giant big organizations where people get lost in the shuffle.
Right.
Right. We need these smaller, tight knit communities where it wouldn't be random for this gentleman to be in the hallway. He's part of this community. We know why he's there. We understand what his goals are, where everybody's on the same page to support him. And that comes back to reimagining school and the system. And rather than just, here's your schedule, this is your teacher from this time period to this time period, and check the box and move forward and get your D's and get your degrees. Like, there are other ways to do school that would enhance the relational process, as well as like, well, we also need to not overwhelm teachers, and we need to have like time built in to just be in community with one another. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, other than it's just the way it's been.
Yeah. Right. Well, how about this? I think this is a good time to kind of cut, and just to kind of like, you've made me think a lot. Let's round out this, because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you the same questions in the next episode. And here's why, because yeah. And the thing is, and I'm just kind of putting this out for the listeners as well, because you are outside, and I think what we bring to the table is very interesting. You're living a lot of the grass on the other side. We don't know what it looks like as educators, but you've also, allowed me to open the door to educators who are still fighting in a system that they know is just not good. And it's unfortunately going to get worse unless we start to move something here rather quickly. And we've all thought about what Alli's doing. So, kind of putting together, Joe and Natalie and Maureen and all those things. And thank you for asking me that extremely difficult question. That was a tough question. But next week, we're going to come right back at you. Yeah, in the system right now, in October, November, it's tough. If you are thinking, and you are an educator who's in the system, we do have some amazing educators coming up as well. So even a few more, some who have shifted within the system, major shifts. Those are going to be coming in, and some people who are doing some amazing things in the classroom at rural areas. And also making a national impact. So, and then just somebody who's done some amazing tech things. Let's ask Alli next episode. I'm not even going to give you a chance to like sum it up, because they're going to have to wait. But for everybody here, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Next week, we ask Alli what's on the other side of the fence. All right, we'll catch you next time on Disrupt Education.